let us look ahead at what we can expect from the Red Devils this season. They have been busy in the transfer window. Some will say not busy enough. We will get to that in a bit. We'll show you some of the players that they've signed so far. But Rob, just your thoughts generally on what we have seen business-wise from the Red Devils in this preseason.
Well, I mean, they said before the summer that they were going to target the midfield to strengthen, and obviously they've done that with Yuri Tillemans and Andres Santos from Chelsea. I imagine if we had a Man United fan on this show, they would say that that's not enough business to solve that midfield problem. Obviously, they've lost Casemiro. Manuel Ugarte is not going to play for the best part of a year because of the injury he picked up playing for Uruguay at the World Cup. I think that a lot of Man United fans were hopeful that by this stage, maybe there would have been a marquee central midfield signing, someone like Elliot Anderson, who's obviously gone to City, or Sandro Tonali, who's gone to Tottenham. At the moment, there hasn't been one. And I think that's where a lot of Man United fans are perhaps a little bit frustrated. I mean, there is a caveat to all this in that there's still 5 weeks of the transfer window to go, and it's very hard to judge a window when we're in the middle of it. You know, you can only really judge a window at the end of it after the deadline has passed. So I'm pretty sure that Man United are gonna try and do more business. I think right now, lots of Man United fans are quite frustrated about the state of their transfer window. There was a lot of optimism towards the end of last season with Michael Carrick coming in, the way they finished the season, Carrick getting them back in the Champions League. I think a lot of United fans were hoping that they would kind of kick on and make a lot of new signings, really strengthen the squad to have a real go in the Premier League and also in the Champions League next season. As of right now, I don't really think that that's happened, but there's still time.
Still time. Is there enough time, and there are enough targets, Augie? Because as Rob said, if I put on my Manchester United fan cap, frustration is the right word, because of course this coming season now, Manchester United have gotten Champions League football. That of course is a big thing for the club. Is where the club believes they should be competing, and that's the key word, competing. And the last time we saw them in the Champions League, it wasn't quite competing. And now that it's a bigger Champions League, as it stands, will it be enough for them to compete?
Well, not at the moment, but it's still July the 31st. So I think you, Alexis, and many of the Man United fans have got to be a bit more patient. And I think, you've got to realise that, look, who has Liverpool signed so far? Who have Arsenal signed so far? A lot of clubs have been chasing deals, haven't got them done. So it is kind of still early in the window. United have got other decisions to make as well. I mean, the situation with Marcus Rashford, I think we're going to discuss in a minute, but that will define what they do from here on in. If he stays, they'd have to sign a left-sided forward. If he goes, they do have to sign a left-sided forward. So, look, they've missed out on a couple of targets in midfield, but if I was in a situation of being a Man United fan with 3 weeks before the season starts, I wouldn't be that concerned, to be honest. I think they will get deals done. I think you have to judge this current regime on what they did last summer, and they did pretty well with, Stanley Lamans, Mateus Cunha, Brian Mbeumo. So I just think be a bit more patient and look what your rivals are doing. You can't compare yourself with Man City and Chelsea because they always spend big money. But I think Liverpool, Arsenal haven't spent big. Tottenham have spent big, but they had to because they almost got relegated for the last 2 seasons. So just take a bit of calm, relax, and just enjoy the next few weeks.
Mark Ogden telling me to be calm and relax and patience. What a time. That just goes to show you the stress that United put me through on a regular basis, Don. But what are your thoughts on what you're seeing from the Red Devils? If you're the rivals of them this coming season, how much are you looking over your shoulder?
I think the guys are right. And I think a lot of the work, as Oggy said there, they've had a couple of really, really outstanding windows, good windows, buying very, very good players and young promising players. I think it's just been a little bit greedy if you want all these Champions League players to come in this summer. I think the strategy has obviously changed. They're not going to go out and spend £100 million on players. That's why they've walked away from 1 or 2 deals. It's a little bit like Newcastle, where I think their money is in and around sort of 30 to 50 million. I'm surprised they didn't go back for Ederson. I think he's an outstanding player, one that can make other players around him better. So he's just signed a new deal in Atalanta. So very, very good player. But I think there's work to be done. I think Michael is a clever guy. He'd be naive if he thought what he's got now is good enough to compete in the domestic competitions with the Premier League and Champions League, because now this is a tougher test. They were outstanding with no European football last year, but bodies have to be brought in. But you have to be careful. It's just like you can't go out and spend 25 million on a guy that's not going to play. You've still got players like Kobbie Mainoo who needs game time. So it's all revolving around the players that were signed in the last couple of windows, the players that are already there, because, Liverpool proved it when they only brought Chiesa in. They went and won the league. I'm not saying Man United are going to win the league, but what you can do if you're Michael Carrick and the coach and staff is you can upgrade and you can improve the players that you've got. That's still, an outstanding trait to have and some weapon to have if you can look at your younger players and the players that you've got at your football club and think, well, I don't need to spend £75 million because I'm confident Mainoo can do that job. Just because he's come through the academy doesn't mean he's not a £75 million player. So I think I'm with the lads. I think we'll bring in 1 or 2 players. And I think the window after this one, I think that's going to be telling when they then try to move on from the likes of Maguire. And maybe when they've had a good look at Sam Lomans, they might need as though in 2 years' time or 18 months' time, that's an upgrade that needs fixing, a world-class goalkeeper. But for now, I think, with the window still open, I think you're pretty fair set.
Yeah, I suppose that's an interesting thing, Rob, to hear Don say that maybe you should focus on some of the core players right now, see what they can or where they can improve, especially Mainoo. He was such a topic of conversation. Of course, under Ruben Amorim, we saw a better time for him under Michael Carrick. So in terms of the plans for him, what are you hearing or what else does United need?
Well, I think in terms of Mainoo, I think you'll see him be a central part of Michael Carrick's team again. Obviously, he was out in the cold under Ruben Amorim, and Michael Carrick brought him straight back in, and he was fantastic to the point where he got himself back in that England squad for the World Cup, although that tournament didn't go particularly well for him because he didn't play. So I think you'll see him be a central part of Michael Carrick's team. Don's right in that one of the reasons why United have gone for Michael Carrick is because they want a coach who can develop players. It's not going to be a situation at Man United anymore where they go and pluck the best players out of all the different clubs all over Europe and just have a ready-made team. They want to buy or nurture their own players. And Mainoo is a perfect example of that. They want him to get better under Michael Carrick and be a Man United player for the next 10 years. So, we're all assuming that he'll play a central role again next season. In terms of what else they need in the transfer market, it's a difficult situation for United because obviously last season they weren't in Europe. They played 40 games. You can carry a much smaller squad when you're only playing 40 games. They're going to be back in the Champions League now, which means that this summer they need to improve the overall quality of the first 11, but they also need more strength in depth. So that they are going to need more bodies through the door. To Luke Shaw and Harry Maguire, again, who was central to what Michael did in the second half of last season. But there will be concerns about whether they can both play 3 games a week. They were fine last season because they were only playing every Saturday and they had a long break in between those games. But for Luke Shaw, in particular, who's had injury problems in the past, to ask him to play Saturday, Wednesday, Saturday is a big ask. So they may need to strengthen that left back area. Oggie's right again that one of the issues that they've got is Marcus Rashford. Before the window, they were looking at signing a left-sided player, whether that was going to be a left back or a left winger. But they weren't expecting to have Marcus Rashford back. They were expecting Barcelona to trigger that option to make his move permanent. Obviously, that's not going to happen. And he's expected back at Carrington for training on Monday. So if he stays, that's one position that has been filled. And maybe they look at a different area of the squad. Maybe they need to sign another centre-half, for example, because they've got a lot of bodies at centre-half. But you've got Harry Maguire, who's had a couple of injury problems. Matthias de Ligt hasn't played since November and has had injury problems. Lenny Yoro is an outstanding young player, but we haven't really seen that consistency. So there are areas all over the squad that need addressed. It's just whether they can do them all in one window. I mean, Don is right in that sense, in that to ask a club to do everything in one window it's fantasy football, essentially. You need to target the areas that you can get done in this window, assess the squad, and then maybe in 12 months' time, look at other areas to strengthen it. This is going to be an ongoing process for Man United. They're not going to end this window as the finished article, even if fans are desperate for that to happen.
And by desperate, you're talking about me. But Augie, let me come to you then, because I was going to ask you as well about, who else you think should come in, who else you probably think should be offloaded. But Rob mentioned Marcus Rashford, so might as well we go there. We already know the situation. We know that he's set to come back to Manchester United, as Rob said, to report to training on Monday. But what kind of a future are we looking at for him at Manchester United? Or does he still have options elsewhere, even though we know that he doesn't necessarily want to play at another club, at least in the Premier League for now?
I mean, this ultimately comes down to what Marcus Rashford wants, because if he's prepared to stay at Man United, I'm pretty sure they would welcome him back. But if he's determined to go, then they'll have to let him go. I think that with Michael Carrick in charge, you've got a pragmatic guy who will be able to not only deal with Marcus Rashford and say, look, we can get the best out of you, can get you back in the team. But I think Michael Carrick could also sell it to the fans, who many of the fans didn't want to see Marcus Rashford back. But, the Man United fans have a lot of respect for Michael Carrick. He's a very calm personality. He could say, look, we wanted a left-sided attacker, as Rob said. We've got a guy here who is 29 in October. He's just won the league with Barcelona. He had a good season in Spain. you're not going to get anything better than Marcus Rashford if you let him go and try and sign somebody else. So it makes sense all round, really, for Rashford to stay and be rehabilitated. But it depends on him. You know, in fairness to Marcus Rashford, his last two managers at United just treated him pretty badly, you know, in terms of Amorim and Erik ten Hag. Yes, they disciplined him at times, but they weren't exactly giving him a lot of kind of freedom to express himself. He had two guys he couldn't work for. So we're not defending how he behaved. And obviously, he was kind of pretty unprofessional in terms of some of his behaviour going out after games and going to Belfast, as we know, for a night out. But Michael Carrick is a different character to Ten Hag and Amorim. He will get the best out of Marcus Rashford. I think Marcus Rashford is prepared to, you know, swallow his pride a little bit. I think he could make a future at United because he's a good player. We saw that in the World Cup. He's very kind of dangerous off on the left-hand side. Defensively, he's not great. So just getting back to your initial question about what else do they need to do, I think we're all hearing rumours of Lewis Hall at Newcastle that might be available. He'd be a great signing for United because they do need cover for Luke Shaw. Not only cover, but probably a replacement for him. So if you get Lewis Hall at left back behind Marcus Rashford, that is a very strong left side at Man United. So you want positivity? There you go.
I love it. And that's why I'm going to go to Don too now, because Don, if you're the former player here, if you put yourself in Marcus's head, I know this is such a difficult situation, especially considering it looked like he definitely wanted to stay on at Barcelona. But is it just a matter of one, looking at the manager, and it's somebody that understands Manchester United through and through as well? He obviously has a way to relate to the players on a different level as some of the others probably didn't. You look at Marcus as well, and you know, you can look at it as that he's not in the same mental space as he was last time at Manchester United. He had a better time at Villa. He probably had the best time winning a title there at Barcelona. So is this just a new opportunity for him that he should kind of embrace and put the past in the past?
Yeah, I mean, he'll go back to Manchester with his pride dented a little bit. The fact that Barca have said no for the amount of money that he would have cost, about 35 million, and then spent double on, you know, Anthony Gordon. That'll be a bit of a blow, especially how well he done at Barca. But he's got the perfect guy in charge at Michael Carrick, because Michael's a clever guy. You know, Michael knows the industry, he knows the game, he knows how to treat players. You know, he can easily get Marcus Rashford in first day of pre-season, sit with him and say, right, what do you want? And if he says, well, I'm not sure, I want to stay, or I might want to go, I'll speak to my agent, Michael can sell it and say, well, I'll tell you what, give us 6 months to work on you. Let's get you back in the team. You'll start the first Premier League game. If you're fit and you're playing well, you'll start every single game. Put yourself in the shop window. That's the best way to then get a big money move. Otherwise, if the answer is no from Rashford on day one to Michael Carrick, feels like his only options are another loan move. Does he want another loan move? There's plenty of teams like Newcastle United and teams in and around like Villa that would take him in a heartbeat. But he might want to make that permanent signing. The only way I would imagine now to get a top draw move to the big clubs across Europe is by putting on that Man United shirt and performing well and showing the ability that he showed, A, at Villa and B, at Barca. That's the only way he's going to get that top draw move, by showing good character, good personality and good performances.
Yeah, and then I guess just final question on the whole Marcus Rashford situation, Rob. If it isn't Manchester United, have you heard of any other options that he may have?
Well, no. Not really. I mean, there was talk at one stage in the summer about Turkey. I think that he kind of ended that speculation pretty quickly. I imagine there would be interest from Saudi Arabia because of the money that they have, and also his profile. You know, he's not 34 years old. He's sort of 28, 29. So he's right in their target market. But again, you know, I think you kind of make a comment on your own career if you decide to go to Saudi Arabia. I imagine that he will think that he's got a lot more years in a top 5 league. And it was certain when he was leaving United last summer that he was very, very clear that he wanted to go to a Champions League team. He saw that as his level, and that's why he ended up at Barca. In terms of what happens to him now, and one of the big stumbling blocks is his wages and his contract that he's on at United. He's still got 2 years on his deal, under contract until 2028 on a deal that is worth around £350,000 a week. I mean, in terms of teams who can take that on, there aren't any. I mean, Barca possibly is one, but they've already said no. You're looking at the likes of Real Madrid, PSG. Well, they're not going to take him because they've already got top quality players in that position. In the Premier League, you know, Don's right. I imagine that the likes of Newcastle and Villa and teams like that, Tottenham, for example, would be interested in him. But again, could they all afford to pay him £350,000 a week? I very much doubt it. And even United, one of the reasons why he's been offloaded a couple of times by United is because of that massive contract. They're trying to bring down the wage bill. That's why they didn't renew Casemiro's contract. They've also got rid of people like David De Gea, who was on a massive contract. So they want to bring the wage bill down. The difficulty for him is going to be in 2 years' time. If he's still at United, what does he do then? Because he's not going to get that same money elsewhere. And if he is wanting to move this summer, if he decides, like Don says, if he turns around to Michael Carrick and says, look, I just can't come back to United, it's a massive step down after what I did at Barcelona, I want to move on, he's just not going to find that money. And then you're in an awkward situation with the club in terms of, does his agent and his representatives go to the club and say, we want the contract paid up? Does he take a wage cut to go elsewhere? It's very, very complicated. I think the best thing for him is exactly as Don said, go and have a meeting with Michael Carrick when you get back to Carrington, get your head down, train really well, show everyone that you're still a top quality player with your performances in the Premier League, and watch that open doors for you. I think the best route back for him right now is to play really well for Man United.
The best landing spot, I would imagine, for me, Alexis, is playing in Italy. Go. John Stones has just gone to Inter Milan. Go and play for AC Milan. Go and play for Inter Milan, Juve, Roma. Go and ply your trade out there. But you've got to be willing to take a pay cut. There's ways around it. If you're Rashford and your representatives and you want out of Man United, you can say, well, listen, they can do what they've done with Mo Salah, Liverpool, when they cut his contract. They can say to Marcus Rashford, right, you've got 2 years left on your deal. How about we give you £5 or £10 million in your bank account to leave, cancel your contract, go and play in Italy. He would absolutely love that league, and they would love him.
And also, it's worth adding, Alexis, this is Man United in the Champions League. This isn't Man United of 2 years ago when they were, finishing 15th in Ruben Amorim, when it was really going really bad for Marcus Rashford. Man United, I won't say Man United on the way back, but certainly a better position than they were 2 or 3 years ago. So he's returning to a club that's got a better environment, better prospects. They'll probably get through the Champions League phase to the knockout stage. So it'd be going back to a club that is different to the one he left behind. So I think that is also an appeal as well. If you've got a chance to play in the Champions League for Man United, it's not a bad offer, is it?
Yeah, I'm with Don. I think Italy can work miracles. Look at Scott McTominay. Look at Rasmus Højlund. They've come back as different men. All right, well, let's get some quick predictions now. For where Manchester United will finish next season. I believe it was only Don and I on ESPN FC a year ago that predicted United would finish amongst the Champions League places. Even went bold and said United would finish above Liverpool, which drew the ire of Stevie Nicol. But in the end, we were right.
We got shot down, didn't we? We got laughed out of town.
Slaughtered. But here we are with the last laugh. And he who laughs last, laughs best. Or she. So, Rob, next season, Manchester United will finish where?
They need more players, but I think they can finish in the top four. The problem that they've got is that, as Oggy said earlier in the show, they're not close to City and Arsenal. And the two clubs that are going to present a massive problem for Man United are Chelsea and Tottenham, because they're just going to be playing Premier League football. And United have got the Champions League to deal with. And United showed in the second half of last season what teams are capable of if they're only playing one game a week. So if United get more players through the door, top quality players and some more strength in depth, then definitely top four, possibly even third again. If those players don't arrive, it may be fifth and sixth.
Oof. Oggy?
Yeah, I think the top three at this stage, to me, seems sewn up between Chelsea, City and Arsenal just because of the various different reasons in their investment. So I think you're looking at fourth at best. So I think fourth or fifth. If fifth the Champions League spot, fine. But I think unless they make some big signings the next month, I think fourth is the best they can hope for.
Wow, that was very positive. Don?
Fifth. I think fifth's the best they can get. Liverpool won't be as bad as what they were last year. The top three, I think Chelsea are the surprise package. I think they could have a real run with no European football whatsoever. They're going to go pretty close. I don't see Tottenham going from where they were, even though De Zerbi's in charge and they've signed good players, going from about 16th, 17th into the top five. So I think they've got a battle on for that fourth position with Liverpool. I think Liverpool might just edge it. But as we know, the coefficient lately has been pretty strong. So fifth might be enough for Champions League football.